Stay in the energy of the words of that song. We send our power, our love, our joy, our peace out into the world. We pay attention to where the focus of our consciousness is. We pay attention, we give over our hearts and our minds our skill of observation, our call to be present. We pay attention to where we're putting our consciousness. Are we putting our consciousness into the worrisome vision of all that can go wrong? Or are we putting our consciousness into the vision and excitement of all that can go well? We send our love, our peace, our trust, our faith. We become the presence of that which we want to see unfold in the world. This morning, thinking about all the places on the globe that we may be holding in prayer, all events and circumstances of those we love, the beloveds in our lives, close and far away. We hold them in a consciousness of peace and love and well-being. We let our consciousness be a safe haven, a healing balm, a reservoir of affirming life energy. We hold one another, this community, our beloveds, our global family, in this consciousness, this awareness that we are designed and coded and blueprinted to be facilitators for awakening consciousness. And so in these moments of silence, we pay attention. We are present with where we're sending our consciousness and what kind of consciousness. I invite you to speak names out loud if you are comfortable doing that. Or words or phrases that represent your prayers right now for our world. We pray for all world leaders, community leaders, parents and teachers, children of our world. We give thanks for clean water. We give thanks for clean air. We give thanks for oceans and rivers and streams and soil, regenerating and renewing. We give thanks for global leaders, community leaders, who know that if we give nature a chance, she will renew and restore and regenerate. We give thanks for the people working in the world to help create a world that works for all. We give thanks for awakening consciousness. where more and more of us, one by one, wake up to remember that the world is yearning for those in the human family who will wake up and remember that we have the capacity to create a world that works for all. We have the capacity. And so we deepen into that divine idea. Not knowing all the details of all the ways it can happen. Simply opening to the awareness that we are designed, encoded and blueprinted to be the light of the world. Visionary consciousness, inventiveness, innovativeness. We know how to come through these days and create a world that works for all. And for this, we give thanks. And we say, so it is, and so let it be. Namaste. Before we turn on the lights, we're going to show a little video. And it has to do with our topic today, the law of visualization. And it's one example of what happens when we hold a higher vision than perhaps what's been given to us by the world. So before we turn on the lights, we'll go ahead and show this little video. But that's okay. We will take what he did. All the lights. We want to, yay! At the new location, I have it on the highest authority that we're going to have natural light coming in from windows and skylights. I'm constantly walking in here wanting to make the light brighter. I guess that's something to think about. So Thomas Edison, he made a few choices in his life that were not the highest and best. However, he helped move the world forward in our evolution, and his mother refused the message of less than and taught him a message of greater than. That's the gift that we give to each other. I have a confession to make, and it doesn't leave this room. It's our little secret. And the confession is, at this point in my life, I've now lived enough years that I have experienced, as far as I can tell, everything I ever judged.
And then some.
Are y'all doing self-reflection like I am? Got a judgment about something? Oh yeah, here's the experience, baby. So, let's take a deep breath. If anybody ever gave us a message that we are less than, we want to throw our consciousness right now of blessing and forgiveness and love to that beautiful being of light, because certainly they have learned more now, just like the rest of us have. Like that 7th grade teacher who told me I'd never be an artist because I wasn't following instructions. Now I'm told it's okay to color outside the box. As a matter of fact, they want people who will color outside of the box. Or the kindergarten teacher who I heard tell a precious little boy who had just designed a beautiful purple tree, and she said, well, you know, there are no purple trees.
Happened to me.
I didn't even know then that there were purple trees. I had to move to Santa Barbara to see my first jacaranda tree. There are purple trees. Don't let anybody tell you there aren't. So we pause and breathe and we send blessings to all those who've ever given us any message that told us we were anything other than beautiful, bright, beloved, intelligent, remarkable beings of light. Is that okay? Yeah. We bless them. And then we become the message givers. We become those who give an encouraging word to somebody else so that they can know that they too are the geniuses, the bright lights of the world. It's as simple as that. People say to me, I don't know what my calling is. How do I figure it out? I say, can you say an encouraging word? Can you give a hug? Can you smile? Can you help somebody get up and try another time, another day, to keep going, to push through, to be able to look up instead of down all the time? We're all called to do that. So the law of visualization is what we're talking about today. And if you weren't here last week to hear one of the formulas for the law of visualization, I'm doing a review. Okay. It's the loaves and fishes story, and most people know it. Anybody doesn't know the loaves and fishes story? So I can speed through it a little bit. So you can imagine being Jesus, and he's on the mountainside, he's been preaching all day, and there's about 5,000 folks, and they have a couple of fish and a couple of loaves of bread. It was really good pita bread from Bobby's. And his disciples said, because there will always be somebody who says, oh no, dear, there's not enough. Yeah, there's not enough. And Jesus said, well, let's look up. Looks like there's only a little bit, but we're going to look up to a higher perspective because there's something else going on here. So he looked up. That means he looked up to a higher perspective. And then he gave thanks for what he had. Now that's a really tricky part of the law of visualization. You see 2 fish and 2 pieces of pita bread, and you give thanks. Now, are we giving thanks for the inadequate supply? No. We're giving thanks for the universal supply out of which we manifest our world. If there's 2 fish, there must be more. If there's 2 pieces of pita bread, there must be more where that came from. And so we give thanks for what we have. We don't cast our consciousness to what we don't have. That's the tricky part. But if you can move on from that point, the next part of the formula is you bless what you have. And the word blessing, as we learned last week, means to confer prosperity upon. So when I say, bless you, Brenda, I'm conferring prosperity. That might be increase of health, increase of well-being, increase of love, increase of finances. I'm conferring prosperity. When you bless me, you just sprinkling me all over with prosperity. And as we all agreed last Sunday, it's not where you say, well, bless your little heart. It doesn't work in that one exception. So, he looked up, he gave thanks, he blessed, and then to fulfill the rest of the formula for the law of visualization, he shared what he had. And if you know the whole story, they had tons of fish and loaves left over. Now, for some of us, we feel like that was a miraculous event. That substance was manifested out of the unseen, and it was a miraculous event. And others of us see, like Rocco Errico and George Lamza, they said, you know, it was just as miraculous if a caravan was passing by who had all the fish and pita breads that they needed for 5,000 people. Right? The miraculous unfolds in lots of different ways. That's how everything unfolds. So, formula again, law of visualization. We look up to higher perspective. We give thanks for what we have. Shelter, air conditioning, the beach a few blocks away. We give thanks for what we have. And then we bless, we confer prosperity on what we have to see the universal substance expand what is required. Isn't that wonderful, the way that works? And then, out of our excess, out of our prosperous flow, we share. It's a simple formula. So, and the law of visualization, we're training our eyes to see. You know, there's a quote, and I don't think I put it up here this morning. When we're working with the law of visualization, we want to remember that we're not seeing the world the way the world is, we're seeing the world the way we are. Yep. So if I'm feeling like I'm in a consciousness of lack on any level, then I'm going to be viewing the world through eyes of not enough. Right? Mm-hmm. If I'm seeing the world as a remarkable field of possibilities and evolving consciousness and kindness, I'm seeing the world through those eyes, then I'm seeing events unfold that include those qualities. Now, there's a particularly high level of testing going on right now, it seems. And so we can take the events of the world and we can interpret them through eyes that are affirming of our evolution or that debilitate us. The way we're interpreting the world, the law of visualization, operates on the way we are seeing and interpreting the world. So, images fall on the retina of the eye, upside down. We all know this from basic biology. And then our brain fills in the details and makes the image upright so that we can move through the world in a safe way. Our brains work with us to take the images and make them look okay. I don't have a full picture of Carol in my brain, but I have enough information. I've seen her before that when she walks into the room, my brain is already operating to fill in the image of Carol. It's interesting, isn't it? So information comes to us in the world, and it might be information that is outside of our usual way of thinking. It's going to kind of come to us in an upside-down image. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. But my mind, if my mind is ready, it's a fertile ground for receiving the insights and the downloads of spirit. My brain will work with it to put it into an image that I can understand and work with. Does that make sense? So, years ago, I had friends who were telling me, read Autobiography of a Yogi. And I was fresh out of the Pentecostal movement. And every time they tried to give me that book, I'd say, oh God, no! Not that! And so I was in upstate New York. I even had a vision of this book of Yogananda coming to me upside down. I said, oh no, that's not a good image. Oh no, it's coming to me upside down. That must mean something. And then I was in Goodwill, and we were going through the old books, and my friend tapped me on the shoulder. She said, you've got to read this. And I turned around, and she was thrusting this book into my arms, and it was upside down. I thought, oh, good Lord. So this information was trying to get to me, but I kept saying, no, not that. It's against my teachings to read anything other than anything. he talks pretty much throughout the book about Jesus and the consciousness of the Christ. Who knew that higher understanding could come through other books and teachings besides the Bible? You did, yeah. Thank God you're here. Well, in the late 60s, I didn't know that. But I got it pretty quickly after that. That information comes to us, and according to the way our minds are able to receive, we will interpret and make up stories about the information. So here's what I see as the event of the hour. I see that our consciousness is the laboratory. We are the laboratory of evolving consciousness. You and I. Nobody else. Just us in this room. We are the laboratories of evolving consciousness. Well, just like every great laboratory, you want to keep laboratories clean, and you want to keep them well stocked with all the supplies that's needed for the experiments and the research. You want to keep things in order. You want to have people present who know what they're doing. It's the same thing with the law of visualization. We want our laboratory of consciousness to be given over to the awakening. But sometimes we give our laboratory of consciousness over to the idea of staying asleep. And like Rumi says, and Bob Simon made a song out of it, don't go back to sleep. Just don't do that. You start waking up, don't go back to sleep. If you were ever going to stay awake, this would be the time. A laboratory of consciousness, we want to be awake. So I finally read the autobiography of Yogi, but more importantly, I opened up to this idea. Information is constantly coming to us about the awakening of consciousness, and we're missing a whole lot of it. If we can just get a little bit of it, we're going to be okay. But it's coming to us nonstop, full time. So you see things, oh, there it is. You see things not as they are, but as you are. So, I know you've never done this, but I, in my life, from time to time, have been a worrier. Worriers vividly picture in mind the undesirable condition they are worrying about. It's called negative prayer. It's almost like saying, oh Lord, bring me that. Because that's what I'm going to focus on. Right? When I was growing up, little, some of you have had this experience. When you're an empath or sensitive, intuitive, a little bit psychic, you see things, you feel things. And children have it already, and then it's groomed out of them. But as a child, I could see things that were coming. I could see things that were unfolding. And my parents interpreted it as worry. But I would tell them about things that were getting ready to happen. Oh, don't worry about that. You're too young to worry about that. And so my dad got me a little sailor hat that said, worry board. Right? I wore it on my head. Then, somewhere along the way, they started realizing that the things I was saying were coming to pass. And they started paying attention that perhaps some of us have an empathic nature. And we can see and feel and sense and know things before they occur. It's a phenomenon that's real, and we need to pay attention to it. The children always know. So, here's a new term, worry versus severe curiosity. Or extreme curiosity. So I didn't think of this. I was listening to this scientist the other night. He was talking about this invention they've been working on at NASA where they make parts for space stations that are inflatable. You know, they rocket them to outer space, and then when they arrive at the space station, the idea is they will inflate. So the scientists, they were doing the test, and the interviewer said, "Are you worried?" And he said, "I have severe curiosity." Isn't that great? So, do not judge by appearances, but judge with right judgment. So right now we see events in the world, we see things unfolding, we see circumstances. And we can make a judgment. Possibly a few in this room have. We make a judgment, possibly about how bad things could get. So what we want to practice as laboratories of consciousness, we want to practice judging with right judgment, meaning the clearest, most balanced view that we can have. So here's one of the things I'm practicing. If I see something that's upsetting to me, if I hear more upsetting news, even if I visit that abysmal place, even if I visit that place of deep sorrow, I have the ability and capacity to look up and reach higher perspective. So right now I'm practicing giving thanks for all those in the world who are out picturing that which my human family still needs to transform and heal. I'm giving thanks for those I do not understand, the actions I do not understand, but giving thanks that they are out picturing where my human family, the collective, still needs to do some transformation work. So whether they're on my side or the other side, whether I'm agreeing with them or not agreeing with them, they're a part of the collective, and I'm giving thanks for the unfolding of the evolved consciousness, even out of that which is confusing and painful.
There's always a bigger picture.
Always a bigger picture. Now ask me if I'm doing it 100% of the time.
No.
So we decide where we throw the weight of our consciousness. It's the song we just sang. We decide where we throw the weight, the value, the enormous impact of our consciousness. Are we sending a consciousness of love or peace or forgiveness or understanding? Is that where we're throwing our consciousness? You know, it's like a ventriloquist, you throw your voice. Well, where are you throwing your consciousness? What kind of consciousness are we throwing? What kind of consciousness are we adding into the collective? The law of visualization. We reach highest perspective. We give thanks for what we have. We bless what's happening. And we share the insights. We share the informing, the information that we receive on a higher level. If you're having dreams and visions and insights, please share them, because we need to hear the higher view. Church of Facebook, stop being afraid of what could go wrong and start being excited about what could go right.
Yeah.
Is that great?
Yeah.
It was just said anonymous. Anonymous is so smart. Stop being afraid of what could go wrong. Man, I'm doing a lot of laboratory work right now. Stop being afraid of what could go wrong. Be excited about what could go right. What's something right now that you can be excited about going right in the world? Somebody, anybody.
My daughter's about ready to give birth.
Your daughter's giving birth. Is that where signing up?
No, not yet. She's about to, I think.
Yes, blessing of birth, ancient divine soul arriving into the world as the light in a little body. What else? What are we seeing unfold that we're excited about?
New friendship.
New friendship.
Old friendship.
Old friendship.
New graduate.
New graduates. What? Oh. Omni Domini. Yes, we give thanks for shift and change and new beginning. And we bless all those involved who've been a part of our journey to help us wake up.
Amen.
Yeah.
And there's new inventions and ways to clear up the pollution in our oceans,
Yeah.
and solar panels for roofs, and instead of roofing, they have solar tiles, and so we have a lot to be grateful for.
A lot of innovation, inventiveness, a lot of people working in their garages and cellars on new ideas to help us.
We just had the first conference in Myrtle Beach by natural birth midwives from Oregon who are here and teaching women how their bodies work. and that it's time to start having our babies in spirit and in love and in nature.
Oh, our bodies ourselves.
So the first time we did that in Myrtle Beach. So Beach Babies brought them here, and Sonia was with us, and we had an awesome. Bringing spirit here with kindness and love is something to look forward to.
And birthing babies as a spiritual experience, yes.
My grandson was born at home in Rules Inlet.
Yay!
Best birth ever. Best
Yay!
birth
Best. So, it's going to be important for us to measure our well-being by the goodness and kindness and inventiveness that's unfolding in the world.
We're getting a lot of help we're getting a lot of help right now in this day and time for the ascension and the enlightenment of all. And I'm very thankful for that. And we're getting a lot of help. Everything's in alignment. Of course, the Spirit is helping us to raise up and join our positive energies together to change everything. So we're in a very, very special time here.
Were you yawning or?
My son is doing better than that.
Yes, your son is doing better.
There's a total solar eclipse on August 21st.
Yes, a total solar eclipse. And guess where the best place in the whole world is to see it? We're one of those places. We're in the swath. We're in the swath, the path. So here's something to think about. We are in the path of enlightened consciousness unfolding. That's what we're in the path of right now. And the midwives, the doulas, they're all sitting in this room. You know, doulas are coaches for the mother and the team. You can do this. You're equipped and ready. You're powerful being of light. You can do this. We are coaches, facilitators for awakening consciousness. If you don't have a job title yet, think about that one. Somebody says to you, what do you do for a living? You say, well, I'm a facilitator for awakening consciousness. I'm a doula for birthing awakening consciousness. Because if I'm not a doula or a facilitator for awakening consciousness, then I'm a facilitator for something else. And we can just put the one caption on it, probably called fear. So let's take a deep breath. The law of visualization is your responsibility to use it wisely and in a sacred manner. It is our responsibility and our calling to use the imaging consciousness to create well-being in the world. We are made in the image of the One Presence. What is the image, the I-image of you projecting into the world? Either we're a facilitator for awakening consciousness, or we're a facilitator for going back to sleep. Just something to think about. My wonderful friend and mentor, Unity Minister Sky St. John, I was reminded of one of his greatest quotes on Friday: make your vision big enough that God activity is required. I was having lunch with Nikki Golden and telling her about the capital campaign and the vision for the new location and some of the things that's happening. And I said to her, you know, this has taken me to my core of my laboratory of consciousness, my leap of faith consciousness, my upper limit consciousness, to do this process. And I said, you know, this is a pretty big vision that we've taken on as a community. And she said, make your vision big enough that God activity is absolutely required. You mean an I'm going to need to do this spiritual process of visualization and prayer and holding the vision in a really clear, conscious way. Is that what you're saying, Jill? Yeah. God activity is required for a vision this big. We're not meant to do it only with our minds and our blood, sweat, and tears. We're meant to do it first and foremost with the God activity of our minds and our hearts. When you get it, you get it. When you know it, you know it. So we have a responsibility to use the law of visualization so that it affirms life rather than tears it down. And only you know, you do the assessment, only you know when you're doing it well or when you got some more practice to do. I am shocked sometimes at what I hear coming out of my mouth.
So am I.
Who are you?
Oh, don't you stand up.
So we profess to know that we're going to be in Ashland, Oregon and Eugene, Oregon for the next 2 Sundays. And so one of the minister at Eugene, Oregon, he said, bring us the message from your book about healing and transformation and renewal of humankind. Bring us that. And I turned to David and said, honey, are we up for that? We want to be the peacemakers and the vision keepers and the facilitators for transformed consciousness, and yet all that we teach, all that we write about, all that we speak of, all that we communicate on, and still, you and I, David and me included, we still say silly things like, oh my God, we are in so much trouble. Oh my God, can you believe they, he, she did it again? And then one of us will remember, Omni Domini. We remember, wait a minute, we are the facilitators of awakened consciousness. We can collapse into the circumstances that appear to be real, or we can open to the expansive consciousness where all true communication with spirit happens and the unfoldment of our world in a healed way.
All right.
It is amazing when we get it. So y'all, let's take a deep breath. We breathe into this divine idea. Make your vision big enough that God activity is required. Make your vision for your life, your beloveds, your community, your family, all those you're holding in your heart, your world, all life in the world. Make our visions big enough that we lean into the one presence, the one power, the beautiful, beautiful kingdom of heaven consciousness that the great masters have talked about for thousands of years. Out of the universal substance we create our world. The law of visualization is our responsibility to work it so that it works for a world that works for everybody. We give thanks for that in the name and in the light of that living presence within us. So it is. And so let it be. Namaste.